Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Widgets and Wonders. This is my weekly show about great products from small companies. Now we have today another offering from UrbanMatz. Martin at UrbanMatz is now into doing his second wave of mats. He has designed 3 brand new mats after listening to tons of feedback from you guys, the gamers, which is one of my favorite things about Martin. Actually, he always asks for sort of like thoughts on the designs and what he's been doing, and he's incorporated it into a lot of his new releases. So we're gonna check out 3 mats today: a deep space mat, a desert mat, and a new twisting roads mat. And I'm gonna talk about how all 3 of them sort of came to be and sort of his design philosophy behind why and how he built them the way he did. So let's take a look at the first one right now, which is deep space. All right, here's our first mat, Deep Space. Now, this mat was designed after he got some feedback on what people would like to see in a space mat. Martin's super active actually on his Facebook page, UrbanMatz, and that means that what he often does is ask people sort of their opinions of if they were going to get a gaming mat for a specific sort of like era or period, what it would look like. Now, I threw some Gothic ships down on here. This is a 6x4 mat, so you guys can see a bit of the scale of the detail. And here, let's just zoom in a little bit. You guys can have a look. And the choice behind the design. So zoomed right in, you can see there's a star field basically deep in the background. But when we pan back out, you can see that there are no big, huge details. There's some small galaxies and stuff that are sort of seen from way far away. So back here we have a little bit of a nebula, and that's really about the size of any sort of details on here. So that was based on the feedback that he'd gotten, that people were looking for a gaming mat that was not filled with asteroids and sort of like an explosion of detail, because the ships kind of got lost on it. And what he wanted to provide was an option where you had a mat that was obviously a space mat. It's obviously deep space. It was to sort of like the standard of current gaming mats, so it's all neoprene. Beveled edges. Comes with a carry bag now. Actually, all of his mats come with a carry bag with an identifying tag, and that will sort of like, that's kind of just the industry standard right now. But also that was fairly generic space-wise. Didn't have like a big Saturn on it or a huge asteroid belt or anything like that. You know, giant like glowing Eye of Terror. It just sort of allowed the ships to be the main feature of the mat. And I think this mat does that really well. So it is a blue, sort of like blue-black. It's not so dark that the ships pop right off of it. It does have kind of a bluey tint to it. And the nice thing about the star field is it's not too everywhere. The center of the mat actually has less stars than the edges, and so you kind of get to focus on the ships a lot more. So there is our first mat, space mat. Let's take a look at the desert mat. And here is the desert mat. Now, this desert was actually designed and influenced by pictures of the surface of Mars. So when you see the rocky sort of like extrusions and stuff here, he was basing it off of like the topographical photos from Mars and the exposure of rocks on Mars. And what he wanted was an environment, because that's actually one of the most well-documented things on Earth that you can see pictures of just massive deserts. But he wanted to create an environmental space that was 2 things. One, it would work either for playing games off planet, so if you're playing like sci-fi games, or on planet. You could just as easily use it for Earth. And if you want to see a battle report actually using this mat, go to my M31, which are my Horus Heresy battle reports, episode 16. Jay from Lords, Wars, Games and Hobbies and I, we play a game with his Night Lords to my Alpha Legion on this specific mat, and I think it looks fantastic. Now, the other thing he was super cautious of was he didn't want to have any identifiers on it that would give it a specific scale. So when you put models on here, you could just as easily do a 15 mil battle as you could do a 28 or 30 mil battle. And here's some scenery, so you can just see the blending of the scenery onto the mat. These are all by Adam from Greenleaf Terrain, and they are just some of the desert sections that I had made for these mats. But he was really conscious of the idea that he wanted to be usable for multiple scales. One of the things, the feedback that he got was that people tend to buy 1 or 2 gaming mats and want to use it for all the games they play. So there's definitely a market out there for people when they pick up gaming mats, that they want to get something that they can use for, let's say they play 40K in fantasy. They want to be able to use it for either system. And so what's great about this is nothing marks this out as being a mat for one game or the other, actually. I think he's achieved that really well. So there's the Martian mat. Let's take a look at the last one, which is Dirty Roads. And so here is the Dirty Roads mat. It is again 6x4, and this one was made with the intent of it being usable for a multitude of different scales and games. One of the things that Martin got as feedback was very often when mats are designed for games that allow pre-measuring, roads and cross sections and stuff can always be at straight angles and also are in very consistent distances. So for instance, a lot of mats I've seen have 6-inch roads, and every road's 6 inches, and you almost always pre-measure the distance between one side of a road and another. So what he wanted to do was make a mat where, one, the pattern was a little more natural, so this could be very easily an old European village, an old Roman village, just as well as it could be a modern, even like Eastern European village. And the idea there was this place is formed organically. The roads have not necessarily been planned in any kind of civic grid. When you put houses and stuff down on it, they're not in any singular pattern. So the roads are all different lengths and sizes. They're all different angles to each other, and it gives a much more sort of natural feel. Now this could be used for things like Mordheim, Frostgrave, any kind of medieval setting, any kind of modern or even Cold War setting, any kind of scale. So once again, there aren't any specific scale identifiers. There's nothing on here except for rocks and bits of vegetation, and they would work well in any scale. So I'll give you some examples real fast. I got a couple Mordheim models here that I'll just zoom in on. So here's a couple of guys, some rats hanging out, adventuring, and we'll just zoom in on them. Whoop. And you can see that it works just fine in this scale. So there's, I think that's the rat-faced killer and his bud, Ratadonna, hanging out in the ruins of Mordheim, and it works just fine for that scale. And if I pull them off and replace them with a couple of Team Yankee M1 Abrams and an AH-1 Cobra attack helicopter and zoom back a little bit, it's gonna, whoa, that's the wrong way. It's gonna look just as good. So it could just as easily be a European village. And you could sub these in for World War II, whatever. I grabbed them because they're 15 mil scale. And they look just fine. So whatever kind of scenery you want to put on this, whatever kind of models you want to put on this, I'm actually super excited about this mat because it's something new for a variety of different games that I play. I think it's going to look fantastic for Age of Sigmar even, and of course all the skirmish games that we do. This could even be, there's a joke going on the internet, Thawgrave, where it's Frostgrave but it's all thawed, which is basically just playing Mordheim with Frostgrave, or even some, whatchamacallit, D&D style adventuring games like what's the Otherworld skirmish that I'm going to try and play soon, which I'm pretty excited about. So there it is. There is the Dirty Roads mat. Works great with all kinds of different scales. Just zoom down again so you can see a nice big pan of it. There you go. And I think it's going to look great with all kinds of different scenery on it. Well, there you go, 3 brand new mats from UrbanMatz. Now these are available for pre-order right now and they will be shipping in April. Big thanks to Martin for sending these to us to check out so you guys could see them. And even bigger thanks to him for listening to the feedback that you guys give him. I think that's really, really cool, and just how sort of open and immediate he acts on the feedback in the design of these 3 mats is something that, well, you have to really care about what you're doing to do. So great job to him. Great job to you guys for giving that feedback and basically allowing him to produce 3 great new mats. So I hope you check them out. The links will be in the video description below. And if you do know of a great product from a small company that you think deserves more attention, you have them email me at guerrillaminiaturegames@gmail.com, or they can Facebook message me at facebook.com/outofthebasement into the streets. And I will do my best to get in touch, and hopefully maybe they'll get in touch with me. So we'll see you for another Widgets and Wonders next week. Until then, I'm Ash.